Rick, good to see you.
Good morning, Keith. Always a pleasure to be with you. It's a nice Saturday morning.
Thank you. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be with you. The title of this podcast episode is going to be Low Gratitude Threshold. Rick, this is inspired by something that happened, man, when I was in my late 20s. And it's something that I'm reminded of all the time whenever my preferences of things being a certain way show up. And immediately when they do, I started to limit myself on what an experience will be. So I'll tell you what happened when I was in my late 20s. I had a financial planning career going, and I had my second administrative assistant. And I've been very fortunate, but this administrative assistant, well, I had three. The second one didn't work out. This was number three. And it wasn't Keith 1.0. She was a 1.0. So that's why that one didn't work out. But this one was fantastic, and she was from Vietnam. And so I got to know her, and she told me how long she'd been living in the States. And she told me when she came to the States, and she came to the States at the end of the Vietnam War. And she talked about how uh, they left the country. You know, Saigon was falling at the time, and they were trying to get to the U.S. Ships to get off, to leave and head to the U.S. And it was war all around them. You know, she had loved ones that she lost in the war. And what they had to do was she had a small family with her parents and siblings, but they had an uncle. They only had one car shared between all the extended family. And this uncle drove them down to, where the ships were, down to the port. And Uncle did that knowing that he probably would not get his car back. You know, he couldn't stay. I think there was ailing parents or something like that. He couldn't stay. So literally, to get her onto the ships, there were children being tossed by their parents into the arms of soldiers and other people that were actually on the ships, to get out of the country because it was falling. Danger was all around them. And she was one of the kids that got tossed onto the ship. And she got out
Wow.
of Vietnam just in the nick of time. Her uncle ended up getting killed. And so I think about the reason that, for one, just the heroism of everyone that was involved, what that had to do to a country and to anyone that was involved strikes me deeply. The other thing that comes is that her gratitude was just to get there. And her parents' gratitude was to make it off the island and to have their life extended, to have a future, some possibility. Now, where the low gratitude threshold comes in is that, you know, going down to the port, they didn't have any preference about it's got to be a first class, cruise liner that they got to get on. They got to be in the main cabin with a good view. They got to be in first class. Like none of that occurred to them. It was just getting off. And I always think that when I'm on a flight and I'm going somewhere, Rick, I'm thinking that if I am so attached to my preference of how it has to be for this flight, no one can sit in the middle. I got to have the aisle seat. I need an exit row. If I didn't pay for first class, I'm struck by just be happy that you're on the plane. I used to go places and I would have this idea in my head about what the experience needed to be for me to have a good time. And it would be like, I got to be in the front row. I'm not going to this class. I'm not going to this event if I'm not up front. I'm not doing it.
Oh man.
Dude, and it's a limitation for for all the magic that's going on there. I used to do the same thing. I don't do it pickleball, fortunately, because I have a practice, but there are some people that won't play pickleball unless it's certain people on the court with them. There can't be anyone on the court that is not, on the same skill level. And some people, they don't want to be on the court with somebody who is at a higher skill level because they don't want to have to grow and be challenged. And I keep thinking about, man, these preferences are limitations if you become attached and identified with them. Just be happy to get on the ship. Just be happy to be in the class. The minute that I start making it about it's got to be a certain way for me, it's all about me. It's,
Yeah.
and I lose the ability to see all the magic that's going on here. Like we, Rick, you know what we do in our spin classes, and you've done so many with us, man. A few people had like, I got to be on the front row, but there are other people that were like, man, I'm just happy to be in the class and get a bike, and they get a bike, and we are jamming wherever you are. We're having a great time. And I just try to think that when it comes up for me, and sometimes it will come up that I needed a certain way, that I like, dude, that's the part that needs to go. Not me saying I'm not going to go to class, because there's magic going on in there. I want to experience some of that magic and if possible, contribute to it. The last time something like that happened for me, Rick, was last year. There was a fundraiser that was going on for to help medical school students, raise money so they would not graduate medical school with $250,000 in debt. So that's what it was for. And I've contributed to it and given to it many, many times. And in this particular case with the fundraiser, what happened was in previous years, I was sitting pretty much to the front, of whatever the venue was. I was up there. I donated a session for the medical school students who came from all over the country to be a part of this program. And last year, it was at a different venue with a completely different layout. And typically, the people that give the most money are the ones who get to sit up closer to the stage where all the action is. And I was sitting in the back and way back. I mean, like nosebleed. And I remember 1.0 coming in saying, well, the previous 3 years you were up front. And I was like, I listened to 1.0, I'm like, we're not doing that. We're not ruining this experience. Wherever you seated, man, just be happy to be in this space and be really clear on what the mission is here. The mission here is to reduce the debt of these future doctors so that they can go about caring for patients without the weight of debt. Like just make it, it's not about you and where you're seated. It's about this. And I keep thinking, man, when I maintain a low gratitude threshold, Rick, it opens up so many rich experiences for me. When I am identified with it being a certain way, and my gratitude threshold is it's got to be just this way to meet my expectations, the exact opposite happens. I'm limited in what I can experience. And if I'm not careful, I will think it's the circumstances. It's not. It's me. What are your thoughts, Rick?
Oh, that's a beautiful story, Keith. All of it, from your explanation of your assistant's experience in Vietnam and getting out and being grateful to have her life, looking back on it when so many others lost theirs, including her uncle, as well as how different it was for you when you had to practice coming into a room where you thought your ego believed that you were entitled to be up front. And then you stopped yourself from realizing that that was a hang up, an attachment that was going to cause you not to enjoy, not to experience what was right in front of your nose. I love the idea of having a low threshold of gratitude and starting with the very first thing we should be grateful for is your life.
Yeah,
Your
preach,
life.
man.
I mean,
Preach.
it's just a magical, mysterious thing that we're here. I mean, I'm talking to you through a electronic device other people are seeing, and they're seeing another human being. But being a human being is so dang rare. It's way, way, way more rare than having machinery that works or things that we've become accustomed to, cars and trains and planes and all the rest. Being a human being is a mystery that to me is is so inspiring just to
Right.
be grateful for it. And I think you realize that as we age and you realize that you can't take it for granted. But there was something else that you said in all of that that I really liked, which was the idea of letting go of attachments. And I think letting go of the attachments opens up that heart space for gratitude.
Yeah.
I, I notice in myself that my life is better. My life is actually good when I stop trying to force circumstances to be a certain way for me before I can be grateful.
Yeah.
So life is good if I can just skip my head out of my butt trying to make it happen a certain way. If I just relax and let it be and come with the attitude that whatever shows up is okay and it'll be interesting and I'll enjoy it. And even if there's something that I don't like, maybe the example that you gave earlier when you're in the plane and you have to have a nobody in the middle seat and you're on the aisle. Well, maybe you're on the window seat and you've got somebody who's both at the aisle and both in the seat next to you. That's an opportunity for you to experience why you're ungrateful and to reverse it and to change it and to say, this is something I can deal with. And maybe even strike up, God forbid, a conversation with the person who's taking the middle seat. So I guess it boils down in my life that gratitude is part of a number of things that the practice allows us to experience, which is joy. Gratitude brings me joy. Joy, I think, is really not caused. It just arises from within. It comes from the joy of just being,
Yes.
of just experiencing. You are alive. You are alive. What are the chances of that? So I think the last point I'll make is that it's one I always keep harping on because it's been such an Achilles heel in my life. And that is my fundamental delusion. My delusion, Rick's delusion, is always that there's something out there,
Mhm.
something apart from me, a circumstance, more money, a pretty girl, you name it, status, all of those things. My fundamental delusion is that there's something out there that will make me happy and fulfilled forever. And it's a total delusion because the joy arises from within. And it's the fountain, the source of it is the joy of, of being alive. And that's the primary point of why you want to be grateful, to appreciate that life force within you and to cultivate that and to protect it.
Absolutely, Rick. Man, you said it. I can't add any more to that, Rick. Thank you for a great show. I love you.
I love you, Keith. Hey, thanks for your insights and including me. I appreciate it.
Always.